It is halftime here on ESPN AM 1250, 94.5 FM if you're tuned into our frequencies. Maybe you are online and checking us out on your phone or desktop, Facebook Live, YouTube, sasportstar.com, the best ways that you can see our facial reactions on this abbreviated version of halftime. I'm Carl Schoening at Carl ESPN. That's Carl with a K. James Pledger across from me at I Am Pledger. How you doing, Pledge?
What's going on, Carl?
And we got Twitterless Edwin running the show back there. Don't be afraid to crack the mic open every now and again, Edwin. You know, we always appreciate hearing your 2 cents. So, yesterday in the NFL was cut day. And obviously, we know the big Cowboy news was Garrett Gilbert gone, Ben DiNucci gone. Maybe one of those guys ends up on the practice squad, depending on where they end up. But overall, it was somewhat foreseeable. And if you want to hear about the breaking Cowboys news we got, you're going to have to stick around until the teens for Carl's countdown. But I'll just put it this way. Looking like there's a new quarterback in Dallas, and it is not Cam Newton.
What?
Yeah, we got to talk a little Cam Newton here, too. B says on YouTube, yo, halftime crew. Good to see you, B. And that's the best way you can get a hold of us, by the way. I get the comments right in front of me. You can also hit us up on the Kielbasa Bacon phone lines, 210-656-3776. That's 210-656-ESPN. And I check Twitter during the breaks for sure. But the thing was, I was looking at the Texas teams. That's where we're oriented. We're Texas team oriented here. And you're a Texans fan, so I'm happy to have you on, sitting across from me, not being distracted. Edwin can handle all of the nuts and bolts of it. But I'm looking at this Texans roster, and I'm thinking, did James Pledger decide this? Because you've been the one who's been pro-tank for the Houston Texans. They have their first-round pick this year, correct?
They do.
That they do have their first round pick this year, and everybody is one of those, you don't want to be middle of the pack. Hey, you won 5 games, but it ends up getting you into the 10th pick or something along those lines. Why pick 10th when you really want to pick and need to pick top 2, top 3? So I'm looking at this roster. Yeah, I know you want to go pick 1. Everybody wants to pick 1, but do you really want to sit through an 0-17, 1-16 season?
If the results are Spencer Rattler, yeah.
Right. So I'm looking at this, and it's just eerily familiar. Obviously, you put that little bug in my head, but it looks a lot to me as if this was put together by the fictional owner of the Cleveland Indians from the movie Major League. And when she took over the team, she brought in a new team concept to tank. In that movie, the purpose was to move to Miami. There's already a team in Miami. Houston's not going anywhere. They just want to get the best pick possible, which is not too beneficial in Major League Baseball since everybody's got to go through the minor league system. But if you've never seen that movie, great movie, first of all, but this is how it opens, and this is how she introduces the team concept, and this is what I think of the Houston Texans.
Here's a list of the players we'll be inviting to camp.
I never heard of half of these guys, and the ones I do know are way past their prime.
Most of these guys never had a prime.
The facts are we lost our 2 best players to free agency. We haven't won a pennant in over 35 years. We haven't placed higher than 4th in the last 15. Obviously, it's time for some changes.
This guy here is dead.
Cross him off, then.
That is one of the best parts of that movie. She obviously, as I mentioned, has a purpose to finish dead last so they can move out of their lease in Cleveland.
McNair?
Cal McNair?
Was that Cal?
Oh, you're going old school on me. I don't know who Cal McNair is here.
This is the owner.
The owner. That's right. He's the owner of these Texans. I'm thinking for a minute there. You're making a reference to the movie. I do know Roger Dorn from the movie, but to her point, the woman actress, the female actress playing Cal McNair in this particular role, Deshaun Watson, demanding a trade to be off the team. The best receiver, one of the better receivers, the number 2 targeted receiver last year, Kiki QT, is waived yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
And you look at this roster, Tyrod Taylor is most likely...
Will Fuller left in free agency?
Yeah, right. Will Fuller left in free agency. Tyrod Taylor is most likely the starting quarterback here.
Yeah.
And he never had a prime. He is a 500, maybe slightly above 500 starting quarterback. That's what the Texans have brought in. He goes down. It goes down to Davis Mills. Do you have faith in Davis Mills?
He was there. The Texans didn't pick until the third pick of the third round. So he was their first pick of the entire draft, taken with the third pick in the third round. Only had 11 starts at Stanford, and he was a 5-star recruit coming out, suffered a couple of knee injuries, put him behind the 8 ball. The talent is there. If there's something there, middle of the season, hand it over, see if he's got it. If he doesn't, you know what you have to do come draft time. But for the most part, he is a lottery ticket, and he's one you're going to have to cash in at least 10 games through this season just to see if there's anything on that lottery ticket, and you're going to roll it into next season or bring the new face of the franchise in by April.
That's true. The starting quarterback on next year's roster, I just don't see it on this year's roster. The running backs are Mark Ingram, who's going to be 32 later this year, and David Johnson, who's way past his prime as well. So Mark Ingram, granted, is 2 years removed from a 1,000-yard rushing season, but last year in Baltimore, he was under 700 yards. And once you hit that 30, there's a cliff that you're about to fall off of as a running back. That you have to expect Mark Ingram and David Johnson are about to hit that. Sorry, this is a dime a dozen position, and there are cheaper, younger options out there that we're interested in picking up.
David Johnson hit that cliff about 5 years ago. So I am less concerned about David Johnson hitting the cliff because I've already seen it. I know where David Johnson is. I got to see it all last year. He's not a great running back. He's maybe serviceable in a pinch, but you don't want him to be your bell cow. Mark Ingram, who knows, goal line situations, very familiar with David Culley, the new head coach of the Houston Texans, who was the wide receivers coach and offensive special coordinator for the Baltimore Ravens. So he's got great ties with Mark Ingram. Mark Ingram can help kind of implement what David Culley wants to do in the run game and kind of pass things along to the quarterbacks, the offensive line, the running backs, the receivers, all of them, and just kind of get them more ingrained into what David Culley's trying to do when he runs the football. I mean,
Stop trying to put a positive spin on this, Texans fans. His other 3 running backs are Phillip Lindsay, Rex Burkhardt, and Scotty Phillips. I've never heard of these guys.
You've never heard of Phillip Lindsay? He's a Pro Bowler.
Yeah, I know. I'm just giving you a hard time. I'm trying to play off the reference of the Major League movie that I'm going at. Siberian Sneaks, my plug for shoes and such, says on Facebook Live, Texans should add Adrian Peterson to the mix to complete that trifecta of corpses in the backfield.
Well, yeah. I mean, he lives just outside of Houston anyway. Why not bring him in?
Yeah. You keep looking at it, and you add Adrian Peterson on, and it's like, this guy here is dead.
I mean, Adrian Peterson's probably the best of the bunch. I would lean more towards David Johnson being the dead one.
But the point that I'm getting across here is it's the same with the first round pick as it is with the second and so on round picks. The worse you are, the better those picks become. The better those picks are, the better chance you have of getting new talent for the future. The Texans went all in on Deshaun Watson, gave him that nice big contract. They traded for Laramie Tunsil. Who was the receiver in that trade from Miami?
Kenny Stills.
Kenny Stills. Yeah, Kenny Stills is gone. But they spent a lot of future assets on that trade as well to give some weapons and some defense there to Deshaun Watson. And all of that went spiraling down as soon as he demanded a trade, as well as, everything happening off the field with him hurting his value. So now the Houston Texans, as it appears to me, are going into tank mode.
Sure.
They've been losing. Now they're trying to finish dead last.
In the NFL, what is the best way to acquire talent?
Draft.
All right.
It's draft and maybe free agency.
But draft for the most part.
Yes.
You want cheap labor on rookie deals, and then when you hit a quarterback or find a free agent, you're supplementing by having a controllable asset on a 4 to 5 year deal as a rookie, to where that contract isn't as hurtful as going out and spending all that money in free agency would be. So you want somebody on rookie deals to supplement all your big contracts that you're gonna sign, like a Deshaun Watson when you sign him to a massive deal. Under Bill O'Brien, and this may be the gleaming sparkle of, wow, maybe there's some light at the end of the tunnel, especially if you can get a bunch of draft picks for Deshaun Watson, find your next future of the franchise this season and start to build around, whether it's Spencer Rattler, Sam Howell, Malik Willis, or Keaton Slovis, whoever ends up being that quarterback at the end of this year. If I was to go back to 2014, Bill O'Brien's first year in Houston, how many players do you think are still on the roster from the...
Geez, the NFL stands for not for long, and we're not counting Deshaun Watson in this case. I'm going to guess 4.
0.
And we're not. Deshaun Watson was before.
That was Jadeveon Clowney's draft class.
Yeah, okay.
How many players do you think are still on the roster from 2015?
2.
0.
0.
How many players do you think are still on the roster from 2016?
I'm going to guess 2.
0.
0 again? Jeez.
And here's who they drafted in that class, too. Will Fuller, who just signed in Miami, Nick Martin, and DJ Reader. All of them gone. Three players left via free agency. 2017, Deshaun Watson's draft class. How many players do you think are still on the team?
Oh, I don't know. 2, 3, not even. And this is counting Deshaun?
It is 2 with Deshaun. You got Deshaun and Zach Cunningham, who just got an extension last year. Deshaun's on his way out. So that basically leaves you with 1. So 28% of that draft class from just 3-4 years ago is still on this team. Moving forward to 2018, you've got 2 on that one. 25% of that draft class is from
they just waived Kiki QT, who was the 4th round pick in that draft.
Exactly.
And he plays well, except he's always injured.
2019, a little bit better, 57%, but they're looking to trade Lonnie Johnson. I don't know how much longer Max Sharping's for this world. Charles Omenihu looks like he's actually going to be a part of this roster. And here's the best part. Just last year's draft, the last one Bill O'Brien had.
How many players were selected versus how many are left?
You have 5 players selected. 2 are already gone. John Reed and Isaiah Coulter. And both have been picked up by other teams and already cut from those teams.
So you're saying they don't draft well either?
Bill O'Brien, under his tenure, the team did not draft well.
And you'd think somebody with a college background would do a little bit better at scouting the league that sends players to the league. But I guess that's how it goes.
Since 2014, through Bill O'Brien's entire career with the Houston Texans, he has a 22% rate of players he drafted still on the roster.
And that doesn't really surprise me. You'd be amazed, especially when we're talking about those late round guys not really panning
there's
out.
Turnover, but usually if you look at the Cowboys, I can go way back all the way to 2011. Their first round picks are all still on the roster. Like you don't see a goose egg on the Dallas Cowboys for the most part.
I don't have the numbers in front of me to argue that point, but I can tell you as an Eagles fan, the team that won the Super Bowl in 2017 is very different from this team that went, they lost 4. They only won 4 games last year. They could have maybe won a 5th, but they decided not to because they didn't want to jump back 4 spots, and all the players were mad about that. It's like, you know what you signed up for. We're just trying to do what's best for the organization at this point. We're not playing Jalen Hurts in the second half of a game just to beat the Giants meaninglessly. And who was it? Was it the Cowboys that got mad at that because they maybe had some kind of chance? Somebody got mad at that the Eagles purposely lost. Edwin, you know this answer?
It was the Giants.
The Giants were really mad. That's
because
right.
They could have won the division.
That's right. Yes. Okay, because that's what it was. If they were able to beat Washington football team.
Yep.
Yeah, okay. That's what it was. Yeah. I tuned out the Eagles because I was just like, your goal is to lose. My goal is to not spend money at a sports bar because I can't get you here in Texas. I wasn't going to go out and watch the Eagles lose and pay $50 for expensive drinks and wings. But the main point being here,
embrace that though, because look what it turned into. Where y'all were, and then y'all traded back with Miami, so y'all acquired more draft assets. I mean, That's a good thing. You want to be, if you're going to be bad, be bad.
Yes, but at the same time, I care enough about the Eagles that I don't want them to go 0-17, 1-16, 2-15, etc. because I want to at least be positive about the guys on this roster. Do you see anybody on this Texans roster that you want to see on the team in 3 years?
I think Charles Omenihu has potential.
Okay.
At the edge rush, there's some new players that have been brought in this year. Jordan Jenkins, a former New York Jet defensive end. I'd like to see a little bit more of him. I mean, there are certain players on this team you would like to see possibly with this team a little bit longer, but for the most part, I'd like to see what Nico Collins has to offer, their third-round wide receiver they picked up this year. But a bunch of these guys can get caught in the wash for all I care.
So by the 2023 training camp, we're expecting 40 of the players that are currently on the Texans not to be there, if not 45.
Sure, and you got to remember this team's already done most of that work this year. They exercised a whole bunch of bad contracts. They turned over and brought in about 40 to 50 free agents, most of them on 1 and 2 year deals. Desmond King's a guy I'd probably like to see stick around, and Justin Reed, and that's about it.
Well, that's about as in-depth of Texans talk as you're going to get on San Antonio airwaves. But to my point and to your point that you've been preaching, it seems like the tank is the mission. And we'll just tie in with our Cam Newton thing before we get into Carl's countdown. Doesn't seem like Cam's coming to Texas because I don't think the Texans want to risk Cam maybe somehow winning a few games for them.
I absolutely believe that. I don't think that they have any interest in Cam Newton, because of just his personality and bringing that into the locker room. He's kind of very aloof in a sense, in a lot of ways. And so I'm not sure that they really want to bring that in. And plus, I don't think they're trying to win games. So what's the point of bringing somebody in that may get you? But could he find another home in Texas? Could Dallas be a point? I don't know, but I know Carl's got the headlines to keep you caught up. Here's what you need to know.
Carl's Countdown.
Yay, I love that new production sounder. Headline 2. This one comes from Woj a little earlier today. Clint Capella and the Hawks agreed to a 2-year, $46 million extension. He already had 2 years on his contract, so his contract now runs in Atlanta through 2025. Good defensive player.
Great defensive player, great pick and roll player. He really works well with Trey off that pick and slash to the basket, throws the oops. Did the same thing in Houston. The one thing I'm concerned about is they're spending a whole lot of money on players, and they are very deep in the front court, whether it's John Collins or Clint Capella. They have DeAndre Hunter. They have Cam Reddish. They just drafted Jalen Johnson. I mean, they've got a ton of front court players. So I'm wondering, tying all this money up in the front court, how much either they're going to move on from players like a DeAndre Hunter or Cam Reddish, or if they're going to move on from these players into their contracts, a year or so later.
Seems to me that they're locking up the core of the team that got them to Eastern Conference Finals last year. You can say that a little bit of that is luck, but they still got there. That's still experience for a young team.
Sure.
Very good on them to actually have the continuity to maybe make another run in the playoffs, another year older, another year wiser.
It's a team that's really deep, that's for sure.
It is. All right, headline 1. This is the Cowboys breaking news I've been teasing. The Cowboys claim Will Grier off of waivers, which would lead you to believe Cam Newton is not going to be an option. Grier will probably be number 3 behind Cooper Rush.
Yeah, and Will Grier, it makes a little bit of sense, released by the Panthers. He has familiarity with Cowboys quarterbacks coach Doug Nussmeier, who was at Florida while Will Grier was there. So there's a little bit of continuity right there. You can kind of see where the pieces fit. And it makes sense in terms of having a third quarterback in the room and somebody that can easily kind of digest the system and that Nussmeier's worked with before.
You wonder if this is one of those conversations where coaches talk to coaches and say something like, hey, we're going to release this guy. We know that you probably have some interest in it, because much like the NBA, the NFL is loaded with connections like you just mentioned, and those things play big parts in where players end up, especially those players that are not starters. You want to have familiarity over maybe slight talent differences sometimes. Headline 0. Philadelphia 76ers Joel Embiid takes to Twitter to deny a rift exists between him and Ben Simmons. Quote, "Stop using my name to push people's agenda. I love and hate drama. I love playing with Ben. Stats don't lie. He's an amazing player. And we all didn't get the job done. It's on me personally. I hope everybody is back because we know we're good enough to win."
I mean, what else are you supposed to say?
Nothing at all. Joel Embiid doesn't need to take to Twitter to defend public news. He really doesn't. He wants to go out there and maybe defend his boy. Maybe there is a friendship there.
If you say nothing, that's almost like complicity in what's going on behind the scenes. So you have to come out and deny. It's a lot like DeMar DeRozan. Did you hear it from my mama? Then I ain't going anywhere. It's the same thing, even though he ends up going somewhere at the end of the day. So, I mean, they have to come out and deny, because if they came out and said something, it's going to be bad anyway. And then they look bad once everything goes sideways. So they're really caught between a rock and a hard place when you're talking about how they handle these situations.
The 76ers need Ben Simmons to come into training camp, play a dozen games, let all of the contracts that were signed this offseason become tradable, because those guys could be in play to help improve this roster, and let Ben Simmons be the guy the first 20 games of the year so you can get that trade value back up to the 4-time All-Star, 25 years old that he is, as opposed to the guy asking out so everybody's sending in low ball offers, because the 76ers are contenders. With Ben Simmons on the roster, you ship Ben Simmons off for pieces and draft capital, it's not going to be the same effect as if all of a sudden he starts balling out, shows that he has scoring instincts again, and maybe all of a sudden some teams that were hesitant, like maybe the Warriors, the Spurs, etc., they don't want to give up a major piece right now. They don't have to. Going down the line, this will be a little easier for the Spurs or the Warriors or what have you, maybe the Timberwolves or Kings, to separate that piece that Daryl Morey really wants right now if they can rebuild Simmons' trade value, which all we need is we have recency bias. The last time we saw Ben Simmons play, other than on Instagram, was not playing well against the Hawks in the second round of the Eastern Conference playoffs. I think this is Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid trying to make good publicly so it's not so awkward come September 28th when he reports to training camp. We're going to have a whole bunch of Ben Simmons conversation a little bit later, but I want to get your final thoughts on Joel Embiid.
Your Philly is showing, Carl.
Oh, my Philly always shows on the show.
I don't know if you heard the reports as of yesterday, but according to Rich Paul, Ben Simmons isn't coming to training camp. He's not showing up. He's not reporting. As far as I know, he's pulled a Deshaun Watson and said, "I'm never playing for that organization again."
Oh, we're going to get into that. That's the next topic on halftime. But before we go, I got to give you the fastest fingers contest of the day. We're giving away Shang-Chi and the 10 Rings tickets. We're Marvel fans here, Pledge and I. And Edwin's going to be the guy who will give you the tickets if you call into the Kielbasa Bacon phone lines, 210-656-3776. That's 210-656-ESPN. Call in, be the first person to call, and Edwin will give you the necessary Fandango code or fill out the form, whatever it is. He'll have what you need if you want to win Shang-Chi tickets here on San Antonio Sports Star. This is ESPN AM 1250 and 94.5 FM.
Football in America is a special game, a unique game played like nowhere else on earth. It's a rare game, and the men that play it make it so. Prescott, Elliott, Cooper, and Coach Mike McCarthy. And today these men walk the gridiron with one thing in common, with one mission between them: winning. The Dallas Cowboys play here on the home of the Dallas Cowboys Radio Network. San Antonio Sports Star, ESPN AM 1250 and 94.5 FM.
research shows that people remember radio ads with a booming voice that emphasizes all the main points. So to help you remember that Liberty Mutual Insurance Company customizes your home insurance so you only pay for what you need.
That part is super important.
Here's one with a booming voice.
I'm emphasizing everything.
Liberty Mutual customizes your home insurance.
Like a page with every word highlighted.
Only pay for what you need at libertymutual.com.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
Vaccines are not enough, and accurate thermometers are essential for everyone. COVID is once again a major concern, and fever is the key symptom for both the flu and COVID. An accurate thermometer, like the Exergen temporal scanner, is essential to detect fevers early and reliably. Studies have shown that non-contact thermometers are ineffective and therefore dangerous, as they create a false sense of security. Exergen is working with a single focus to ensure that everyone who needs an accurate thermometer can purchase one. Learn more at exergen.com.
Jason Lennox here for Alamo Water Softeners to tell you they have the perfect solution for your family's complete water treatment. The top-of-the-line CareSoft Elite Plus 1 filter is an advanced two-stage system built to protect your family from harmful contaminants that may be in your water. Save $1,000 on the CareSoft Elite Plus 1 system now through Labor Day while supplies last. Discover the Alamo Water Softeners difference. Go to alamowatersofteners.com. That's alamowatersofteners.com.
Hey y'all, I'm Grant Pinkerton of Pigeons Barbecue in downtown San Antonio. We only smoke prime meats with a blend of post oak and mesquite. Come see us for some of those giant beef ribs, tender brisket, and a cold big red. We have a Texas-sized bar, great selection of bourbon, and tons of local beers. I love sports, so we have plenty of screens to watch them on. We're open Wednesday through Sunday for lunch and dinner or until we sell out. Come early, come hungry, and stay late.
Have you started developing COVID-19 symptoms, or have you tested positive within the last 5 days? Local doctors are now enrolling volunteers for a COVID-19 clinical study. The study is for those who have had a positive COVID-19 test within the last 5 days and have health conditions putting them in increased risk for severe illness. Every person who volunteers for a clinical trial plays a powerful role. Go to covidpillstudy.com to learn about the clinical research process. You can be part of developing a potential COVID-19 oral treatment that may bring hope for moving beyond COVID-19. Participants will receive all study-related care and either a placebo or an investigational drug for COVID-19. If you are 18 years of age or older, have COVID-19 symptoms, or tested positive for COVID-19 within the last 5 days, go to covidpillstudy.com and answer a few simple questions to see if you may qualify for this study. Please consider participating in this COVID-19 oral treatment study by visiting covidpillstudy.com. Volunteer today at covidpillstudy.com.
Guys, stop what you're doing. Give me a few seconds of your time and let me give you a piece of advice that will change your love life forever. Have you noticed you've been losing a little pep in your step? Has your lady friend asked you, is everything okay? Do you find yourself having trouble rising for the occasion? Do you stress out before that special moment and wonder, is it gonna work? Guys, I'm going to let you in on a big secret. You don't ever have to worry again. The Mojo Male Enhancement Formula has you covered. Mojo is the 100% guaranteed male enhancement formula that guarantees lasting success, if you know what I mean. The Mojo Male Enhancement Formula is safe, natural, and effective every single time, guaranteed. Mojo is available in a fast-acting spray and a quick-action capsule. Do yourself and her a favor and call Pure Line Nutrition in San Antonio today. They'll get you set up for success. Call 210-494-2210. That number again is 210-494-2210. Mojo Male Enhancement, only available at Pure Line Nutrition.
Drawing up the game plan for the second half of the day. It's halftime with Rob Thompson and Carl Schoening on San Antonio Sports Star, ESPN 1250 and 94.5 FM.
Halftime. Shortened version here is we'll get you out to Globe Life Park. Eric Nadel will have the Rangers versus the Colorado Rockies here on San Antonio Sports Star. First pitch slated for 1:05. I'm Carl Schoening. He's James Pledger. Twitter is Edwin. We got to get you a Twitter, Edwin. No, you don't want to join the downfall of society. I understand that. So, Ben Simmons and Clutch Sports just kind of leaked out at the beginning of the offseason. The 76ers and Clutch are in step, was what Woj said. And that was part of a trade conversation. No trades happened in the months of July and August. Nothing at the draft, nothing as free agency winded down. Now here we are, the month, September 1st, of training camp. September 28th is when players in the NBA report to training camp. It is time for them to now say, we're no longer in step. We're demanding the trade happen because we're not showing up to training camp. Ben Simmons has no interest being a 76er again, thus diminishing his trade value even more for the 76ers, who reportedly wanted a king's ransom, a James Harden to the Nets type deal in exchange for the four-time All-Star who's 25 years old, has 4 years, $147 million left on his contract. This is breaking news that came out from the Inquirer and then was in Philadelphia and was such picked up by other media outlets that, yeah, it seems that Ben Simmons does not want to have anything to do with the 76ers moving forward. In fact, on R&R this morning, I even shared a tweet, and this is why you only trust sources, not a source, because you need another independent source to verify what the other guy was telling you. Jason Dumas out of the Bay Area got 3,000 retweets on this saying, source, there is a high chance that Tyrese Maxey will be part of any Ben Simmons trade. Rich Paul would like both of his clients out of Philadelphia. He backtracked on that an hour ago saying, update, Tyrese Maxey is excited about the upcoming year with the Sixers, as is Rich Paul and the 76ers. Paul does not want Tyrese out of Philly. However, the Ben Simmons situation is totally different. So yesterday, the headlines were something along the lines of Clutch is at war with the 76ers. This is very clearly a Ben Simmons and Philadelphia have seemingly met their end. Everything that I was talking about, how maybe Joel Embiid can reconcile something here, and we have at least 20-game stint where Ben Simmons is still on the roster, it's not going to happen. So, Pledge, Spurs have been one of the rumored teams. There's no media reports.
Stop it.
And now that we know that it's not a clutch situation, Spurs have two clutch players, DeJounte Murray and Lonnie Walker, who by all means should be desired by Philadelphia if they're going to negotiate with the Spurs. Those would be two players that you wouldn't mind taking back if you're Philadelphia. You get a point guard to replace your point guard, and you get Lonnie Walker, who's not only from Reading, Pennsylvania, but only 22 years old and developed by the Spurs. So you know that he's in for about a 10-year career. At least that's the way it's looking like for all of the Spurs' first-round draft picks since DeJounte in 2016. This is a situation where if you're San Antonio, you have to give up one of your good guys. Thaddeus Young is probably involved in the trade. You're not going to be able to pick up Ben Simmons if you're, say, Minnesota, who said, oh, yeah, we like Ben Simmons, but we don't want to give up Karl Anthony Towns, D'Angelo Russell, or Anthony Edwards. Well, what else do you have left? You know, we don't want your scraps, Minnesota. We don't want Patrick Beverley and your random first-round picks that are now probably going to be somewhere in the late lottery to the mid-20s because you have Ben Simmons. No, they want an Anthony Edwards or Karl Anthony Towns. That would be crazy if Kat and Joel Embiid ended up teaming up. But what is a realistic trade scenario that you maybe foresee for Ben Simmons? Because you're always sending me all of these articles. I see them. I don't read them because I used to be addicted to the NBA trade machine. Nowadays, I just let it play out because sometimes expectations do not always meet reality.
Stop. And I'm telling this to all Spurs fans. Stop.
I'm good with that.
If you think the Spurs have a package that can combat anybody else for Ben Simmons, it's laughable. And the fact that the Spurs are being so tied and that Chip England would relish or love or...
Fake news. That was fake news. Somebody tweeted out that Chip England would relish that. Chip England doesn't talk to any media.
Exactly. But this is what I'm talking. And this is sources behind the scenes of what Chip said. And all these other things, and that Greg Popovich would love the opportunity to coach Ben Simmons and his defensive ability.
Well, who wouldn't? But go ahead. Yes.
Here's my point. What thing of the San Antonio Spurs has ever lived in the forefront of the news cycle and been true?
Nothing that didn't immediately happen within 24 hours. I can't really remember the Spurs. I think it was Richard Jefferson. Richard Jefferson rumors started to pop up, and within 24 hours, that deal was done. That was the very early stages. But yeah, the Spurs keep everything close to the vest. But that doesn't mean that they wouldn't be a good landing spot.
Kai Jones had the best dinner of his life, and they talked everything with Coach Popovich, and the Spurs
shout out to
the
Jeff Garcia. That was a great article by him. But yes, no, I understand.
No, like any Spurs rumor that you hear that lives for a long time out where there's smoke, there's usually fire. With the Spurs, you can go ahead and throw it away, put a lid over it, because that is a dead topic, because it never happens. The Spurs have been near the forefront of this Ben Simmons thing since its inception.
Vegas had them as a number 3 chance to get him, and they've dropped them significantly to the bottom 10. And whether or not Vegas actually has the no, or they just want to encourage gambling, it's usually the latter. My point being here, Pledge, is Ben Simmons is still exactly why a team accumulates assets, because he has a long-term contract and he is a franchise corner piece. He might not be the best player on a championship team, but he could be a top 3 player on a championship team.
Sure. But here's the other issue. NBA players usually get to dictate where they want to end up.
Different situation here because he has a 4-year contract.
James Harden had a long-term deal. He had multiple years on his deal, and he got to dictate exactly where he wanted to go.
He went to pretty extreme lengths to wear a fat suit on the NBA floors, though.
We're still a long way from the start of the season, a season in which he's already threatening not to show up for. So
yes,
my point is, the NBA players hold most of the hand when it comes to what they want, where they want to go, where they want to eventually end up. Daryl Morey can hold as much hand as he wants, but at the end of it, 4 years under contract or not, if he's shipped to San Antonio, Ben Simmons would just go, I'm not going. And at that point, would San Antonio really want to give up those assets if Ben Simmons came out and said he didn't want to be in San Antonio? And on top of that, would San Antonio want to deal with the headache of somebody that doesn't want to be there?
First off, I think the league gets involved at some point if that ever were to happen. That's never happened, because you're right. More often than not, when a guy is demanded a trade, he ends up where he wants to go. That ended up back with, maybe if you go Allen Iverson to the Nuggets, I think he was the first guy to really demand a trade in this era. Carmelo to the Knicks, etc. Anthony Davis to the Lakers and all that stuff. But if it were to ever happen where a guy has 4 years, near $150 million left on his contract, and he says, no, I'd like to be traded again, that's when I would imagine Adam Silver comes in and says something along the lines of, your contract is not going to be paid until you actually play. And obviously, like you also point out, that's a headache. I don't believe that happens to a Greg Popovich coach team. I don't even think that it's necessarily out of the realm of possibility that he would not play for a team like the Cleveland Cavaliers, who may or may not show interest. But going back to the original question, what is a package, sans Keldon Johnson, that you think would be something the 76ers would be interested in? Because the Spurs do have the pieces there. And if it's not San Antonio, what does Sacramento give up? What does Minnesota give up? And are the Warriors really risking their future, but they've done a good job building behind the scenes to be a contender this year and have some solid pieces going into the next decade?
The Warriors have the best package of picks and players and young talent to be able to ship off.
They do.
The other players would be, you would look at Washington. I think Washington has the best package because you have a certified star in Bradley Beal that you could, not straight up, but maybe a Maxey and Simmons for a Bradley Beal. I could see that being something that could get that job done as long as Beal were to agree to an extension. I could see Dame Lillard, possibly CJ McCollum, Pascal Siakam, other players that want to be moved as better options than the San Antonio Spurs. The San Antonio Spurs just don't have the same amount of star power. Buddy Hield would fit great in Philadelphia if you package him and Davion Mitchell and a bunch of picks to get Ben Simmons down to Sacramento. They all have better packages and pieces to offer than what San Antonio does, because let's face it, there's a problem when you pick near the middle of the lottery instead of the top of the lottery. Your picks become less desirable, and on top of that, they don't have a whole lot of first round picks, and their talent is lesser than all the others that are offering. Like, you can offer DeJounte Murray and Derek White, or DeJounte Murray and Lonnie Walker. More than likely, it's going to take all three of those and picks, because you're talking about a 4-time All-Star, and they're not going to give him up for pennies on the dollars, the same way the Houston Texans have dug their feet in and said, we're not selling Deshaun Watson at a discount.
Exactly. And that's, you're still dancing around the question, but you did answer it a little bit. What would it take?
It's going to take all
it's
three,
going to take a
multiple firsts and pick swaps.
Because you also have to match Ben Simmons' $30-something million contract. If I'm not mistaken, he has a 15% trade kicker, which increases his salary if he's trade. So thus now you have to increase your trade matching. The Spurs do have the pieces to move there. However, the 76ers have a full roster as well. So all of a sudden, a 3-for-1 type of situation doesn't really do them much good.
It doesn't.
So where are you if you're Philadelphia, in that sense where CJ McCollum, like a 1-for-1, is the absolute worst backup B plan, but it does make Portland better? And is that somebody that you're willing to bring on if you're the 76ers? That seems to be the most likely scenario here, because if a Bradley Beal trade was going to happen, I get the feeling it would have already happened. The conversations have been going on for too long for the Wizards to not have already kicked the tires on what it's going to cost to get Ben Simmons. And I partly don't think that they want to give up a 28-year-old Bradley Beal. That's the one thing about these guys coming into the league when they're 19 years old. You look up, it's been a decade, and he's only 28 years old.
The problem is Bradley Beal controls his future because he's a free agent. So he can very easily say, I'm not re-signing, which would spar them to move Bradley Beal even quicker wherever he went and get as much as you can in return. As far as CJ McCollum, it's a 1-for-1, but Portland would have to throw in picks if you're getting a Ben Simmons in return.
And that's where the Spurs do have the edge over everybody aforementioned. They have been asset stockpiling. It started with the Chicago trade with DeMar DeRozan. They got the entire 2025 Chicago draft, which is a first-round pick and a second-round pick. They were able to flip their 2015 draft and stash guy, Nikola Milutinov, who won't be coming over because he has a good deal with CSKA Moscow, into, if I'm not mistaken, the best of 2 second-round picks, which can be flipped to anybody, as well as Chandler Hutchinson, who is still only 23 years old and was a first-round pick a couple years ago. He has some potential that a team might be interested in kicking the tires on. And here's the real thing. The Sixers aren't interested in an expiring contract like Al-Farouq Aminu, but if you can drag in a third team that's really not interested in Ben Simmons, that wants to get a little bit of cap space for next year, that has a $10 million player, such as maybe Sekou Doumbouya and Killian Hayes in Detroit, because Detroit's one of the 3 teams slated to have cap space next year. And one of the other 2, San Antonio. You just go ahead and figure out how the Spurs can maybe even work in an Al-Farouq Aminu into a trade like this, because the Spurs have to cut down their roster from 17 to 15. And those 2 players that I mentioned, Chandler Hutchinson and Al-Farouq Aminu, are kind of question marks, and they would be expensive cuts.
They would be expensive cuts, but here are the things. If the Ben Simmons trade does happen, it is more likely that San Antonio is that third team than it is they're the team getting Ben Simmons.
And I'm sure Brian Wright and company are doing their due diligence to figure out how they can benefit from something shaking up. You remember when Jared Allen ended up going to Cleveland for like a second-round pick? I'm sure somebody was like, hey, why'd y'all leave us out of that? We would have loved to have him here in Portland or Sacramento. We would have given you 2 second-round picks for Jared Allen. Come on now.
It was an extra first. Remember, it was the Harden deal that got Jared Allen to Cleveland, because they felt that Victor Oladipo was going to be a better fit than was Jarrett Allen.
Yikes.
And that didn't work out so well. And mainly because Victor Oladipo was an expiring contract and there was a chance to open up cap space, or if it hit, re-sign him and you've got a potential all-star.
They still flipped him over to Miami, and it didn't work out. He got injured and didn't get the contract he wanted in Miami. Hey, who won Shang-Chi tickets?
Cow.
Cow?
Cow.
As C-O-W?
Mm-hmm.
That's a name? Cool. Congratulations. Hey, all right. Congratulations to Cow. We are giving away one more pair of tickets here on Halftime. Right now, call in. It is 210-656-3776, 210-656 ESPN. The Kielbasa Bacon phone lines are going to be ringing. Edwin will be picking them up, and we will be back here on Halftime. You are listening to San Antonio Sports Star, ESPN AM 1250 and 94.5 FM.
A 17-week season. And only one couch. Let's hope it holds up. The Cowboys are back. The explosive action happens here. San Antonio Sports Star, ESPN AM 1250 and 94.5 FM.
This Sports Center update is brought to you by Edwin Watts Golf Shops, home of the 100% satisfaction guarantee.
The Dallas Cowboys and Houston Texans had to cut their roster to 53 players with the rest of the NFL yesterday. Among the notable cuts for the Dallas Cowboys were quarterbacks Ben DiNucci and Garrett Gilbert, making Cooper Rush the backup quarterback on the roster. Defensive end Rondell Carter and safety Tyler Coyle were released on the defensive side of the ball. The Houston Texans surprisingly waived former fourth-round pick and wide receiver Kiki Qt. The 24-year-old finished 2020 with 27 catches and 362 yards, plus a catch percentage of 87.7 in his final 5 games, but battled injuries through most of his career with the Texans. And Cam Newton was released from the New England Patriots yesterday. Both the Texans and the Cowboys are linked to checking in on the availability of the 2015 league MVP. Those are your football headlines. For San Antonio Sports Star, I'm Carl Schoening.
Listen up, sports better. This is Rob Thompson and my blah, 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 blah. Listen up, sports betters. This is Rob Thompson, and I'm here to tell you about my favorite sports book, my only sports book. That's BetUS. Football is back, baby, and it's time to get yourself back in the action. I have only endorsed one sports book. It's BetUS.com. You may ask why. Well, number one, I've been in the radio business as long as BetUS has been in the sports book business, over 25 years. Longevity is key. And why have they been around? Well, I'll tell you why. They know they are going to pay you. You know you're going to get paid. You need a sports book that offers you everything, including live betting, of course, MMA, golf, horses, esports, and all those crazy prop bets we all enjoy so much. Call them today. Get yourself signed up. It is so easy. 1-800-79-BET-US. That's 1-800-79-BET-US. They'll walk you through the process. It's a 5-minute thing. And before you know it, you're going to be signed up. And if you want to get a great bonus, I need you to mention KZDC. That's us when you join. And you can get up to 200% of bonuses on your first deposit. Nobody does that. I bet at BetUS. You should too. Join BetUS.com today. Start betting at America's favorite sportsbook. That's BetUS.com, where the game begins.
Hey y'all, I'm Grant Pinkerton of Pigeons Barbecue in downtown San Antonio. We only smoke prime meats with a blend of post oak and mesquite. Come see us for some of those giant beef ribs, tender brisket, and a cold big red. We have a Texas-sized bar, great selection of bourbon, and tons of local beers. I love sports, so we have plenty of screens to watch them on. We're open Wednesday through Sunday for lunch and dinner or until we sell out. Come early, come hungry, and stay late.
Here in Texas, the heat is relentless, the storms are serious, and the hail is insane. Texas weather doesn't do anything halfway, and neither should your roofer. Your roof protects your home and your family. So whether you need a simple repair or a roof replacement, metal or composition, you need a roofer you can trust. That's Stevens Roofing. They are reputable, reliable, and have always been your local roofer. Call Stevens Roofing today for a free estimate at 210-785-0994. or go to stevensroofing.net.
1911 Cigars is the premier cigar lounge in South Texas, providing quality, affordable cigars in a professional, inviting environment with a large covered patio with TVs. A BYOB establishment, 1911 Cigars strives to allow the avid cigar connoisseur a comfortable place to relax, socialize, network, and of course enjoy a great cigar. 1911 Cigars is available for private events and has private cabanas with TVs, fire pits, and heaters. 1911 Cigars at 207 South Main Street in Cibolo. Online at 1911cigars.com.
Staples Connect has everything for back to school at amazing prices. Right now, Crayola 12-count colored pencils and 10+2 Crayola marker bonus packs and Bic Round Stick Ballpoint Pen 10 packs are just 97 cents each. So you won't just be ready for school, you'll be Prepared Parent of the Year ready.
I just want to thank my family and Staples for making this possible.
Visit your local Staples store or staples.com/back-to-school today and get more than ready for school. Ends 9/18, limit 30 on Crayola. Bic pens in store only.
We're planning a trip to Spain later this year.
But our Spanish is...
It's pretty bad. So we're using Babbel.
Babbel's conversation-based method teaches you real-life words and phrases. And with Babbel's interactive, bite-sized lessons, you'll remember what you learned.
There's no easier way to learn another language.
Ahora hablamos español.
He just said, now we speak Spanish.
Babbel, language for life. Now try Babbel for free. Just go to Babbel.com. That's BABBEL.com.
Howdy, San Antonio. Chip Ingram from the Roo Pub and the Angry Elephant, inviting you to come out and enjoy patio season. We have newly remodeled patios, garage doors, and everything else you need to enjoy this great South Texas weather. As always, ice cold beer and specialty drinks. Happy hours daily from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. And our kitchen is open from 11 a.m. to 2 a.m. See you soon at the Roo Pub and the Angry Elephant at 281 and Redland Road.
I'm Dr. Mark Havercorn. When I needed office space for my oral surgery practice, the best decision I made was to call Scott McMurray at Bottom Line Realty Advisors. He helped me find the ideal space and negotiate the best possible terms.
If you need 2,000 or tens of thousands of square feet for your office, warehouse, or retail space, we can help. The last thing you want to do is overpay the landlord.
I was impressed that Bottom Line Realty Advisors only represents tenants. I could tell that what I needed was their highest priority.
We never represent landlords. We only represent you. We help you get the best possible price and terms on your commercial lease.
Thanks to Scott and Bottom Line Realty Advisors, we have a great space in an ideal location. I know I got the best possible deal. I'm Dr. Mark Havercorn, and I highly recommend Bottom Line Realty Advisors.
Call Bottom Line Realty Advisors, 210-535-7800, 210-535-7800.
Bottom Line Realty Advisors. We get the landlord off your bottom line.
Slackers Sports and Arcade Bar, now opening at noon 7 days a week at all 4 area locations. Slackers is your home to 7 days a week happy hour, and they now start at noon every day. And by popular request, Slackers brings back their signature frozen drinks. Visit slackersbarsa.com for more info.
Listen to this station anytime, anywhere on Odyssey. Odyssey is your new audio home for all the music, news, sports, and podcasts that matter to you. Odyssey. That's AUDACY.
Get the latest scores and more from high school football online anytime at 210varsity.com. Sponsored by the San Antonio Express News, San Antonio Sports Star, ESPN 1250 and 94.5 FM.
This is Rudy J on your home for Texas Rangers baseball. San Antonio Sports Star, ESPN 1250 and 94.5 FM.
Halftime going to be short today as we have the Texas Rangers coming up next. Eric Nadell will be on the call as the Rangers try to win 4 in a row. That's right. You heard it right. They won the final game against the Astros, and they're wrapping up their 6-game homestand here after winning 2 in a row against the Colorado Rockies. A sweep for the Rangers, Pledge. Can you imagine that?
That'd be nice. It's something that you get to see all this young talent starting to come up and come through the system. And hopefully here, now that we're in September call-ups are about to happen. Josh Young is now a step away. Former MacArthur Brema, former Texas Tech Rivera, former first-round pick of the Texas Rangers. Hopefully you could be seeing him very soon up in Arlington.
We're not too far away from needing to pay attention to the playoff jockeying for position and so on and so forth. The Rangers will not be a part of that. They are dead last in the AL West. They are 31 games out of first place in the division. They're 47-85, and the only team worst in the American League are the Baltimore Orioles, who had that infamous 19-game losing streak earlier on in the season. However, there is a bright future at the end of all of this. Hopefully, COVID will be over and they don't have to deal with all the COVID protocols that's put them behind the eight ball. Some of these guys that have been called up from Round Rock and such places will get an opportunity to develop here in the final month and be ready for spring training come February or March. We're going to have to get my man Mike Capps, the voice of the Round Rock Express, on. He's a great interview.
Mm-hmm.
Used to work for CNN, ABC News. He has a lot of great stories. He was long story short, a great reporter, and then decided to be the voice of the Round Rock Express. However, Houston Astros leading the AL West 78-54. Can't wait to see them make a playoff run. They're 5 games ahead of the Oakland A's. Hopefully they can hold on to that lead so we have a Texas team in the playoffs.
Oh, they will. They've got this. They've got that lead. They've had it since the All-Star break. What they're combating for is to make sure that they are not playing on that first weekend. They're trying to get one of those buys and not have to play in that first week.
Well, he's James Pledger. Edwin was running to the show. I've been Carl Schoening. You guys have been listening to Halftime here on San Antonio Sports Star, ESPN AM 1250, 94.5 FM. We are going to have a full show tomorrow. Can't wait to see you guys. And feel free to hit us up on Twitter. I'm at Carl ESPN. He's at I am Pledger. Edwin is Twitterless, but we want to hear from you guys next time for tomorrow's episode. We'll see you later.
San Antonio Sports Star Pro Football Pick'em. Online at sasportsstar.com. Can you pick the perfect matchups all season long? If so, you could win $50,000. Weekly winners score gift cards to Pigeons Barbecue in the Mellow Mushroom. For official